All right.
Hang on now. Okay, I'm putting it on mute until you're ready.
Hey, well,
And please try to remember to mute your mics if you're going to be talking or have background music or barking.
Woof.
okay, so Mark was our judge, I think, in March, and Tony let me know that Mark would like to do a program. I said, well, that's great. So I've been in communication with Mark. First I offered June, and I think he got married. So, but now he's a married man. We've got him for oh my God, there he is. Now he's a married man. He's doing a program for us. So congratulations, and they can tell us a little bit about your background. You sound like you've done a lot.
Yes, I mean, I've been a photographer for almost 20 years, if you don't count my amateur, just experimental stuff. I've been an artist my whole life. First of all, let me say thank you so much for all of you to be here and want to listen to my random ramblings. I am 43 years old. I was born and raised in Santa Maria, California. I spent 12 years of Catholic school. I was an altar boy. I'm an Eagle Scout. I was a Boy Scout leader for many years. I've traveled through 18 countries, 43 states, and now I have a wife who puts up with me. So even though I know this is a photography thing, I thought I would just show a little bit of my work before I was a photographer, because it definitely influenced who I am and the work that I do. Please feel free to, stop me and ask any questions that you have. All right, I'm gonna try and screen share. Can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, great. Okay, so I'm gonna start off with some oil paintings that I did when I was in college. I was always interested in comic books and the figure, and so it was easy for me to fall into a passion for art, fine art, with like sculptures like Rodin or Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci. And so a lot of my paintings, this was about 4 feet wide, this is about 6 feet tall. They're all oil on wood. They're all very textured and tactile. This is a life drawing that I did probably my sophomore or junior year of college, so 2021. And so quickly, I decided, why should I spend 6 months working on a painting or 4 days working on a drawing when I could just take a really nice photograph? And so I also got involved in a lot of sculpture. So this was about 6 feet tall. This is a life-size metallic crucifixion that people could climb inside and hang if they wanted to be maybe dark artists who thought their life was self-involved.
Can I spin up there?
Yes, it's built for Catholics, but any denomination of self-loathing will do. So that's just a hint of what I started out with. So I moved back to Santa Maria in 2002 after 6 years of living in Seattle and attending Cornish College. And without having a large studio to work in or anything of that nature, I couldn't make massive paintings or massive sculptures. And so I started taking a camera with me everywhere I went. Let's see if this will open. So
There you go.
So I just carried my camera everywhere I went. And so sometimes I would attend religious organizations or religious conferences and just document things that were happening.
Mark, that is a photograph, right?
Yeah, that is a photograph, yes.
Okay, great.
All right, I'm just gonna open these individually because they wouldn't open widescreen on anything else. Again, I also started working for a lot of different media organizations. I worked for Univision, I worked for the Santa Maria Times. And so I was always obsessed with documentary and capturing reality. And I was never afraid, just due to my outgoing personality, to get really close and be in the face of my subjects. So this is a dancer at another one of those religious organizations. So, but I also would do work for random organizations. The Chumash would hire me to go and take portraits for their magazines and things that they have. And so I'd, be setting up lighting on the fly, and I was teaching myself how to just adapt to any lighting situation, getting people to feel at ease, all of those things. Here's a photo of my niece Nadia participating in the Elks picnic, hunting for quarters, I believe, in a haystack. I also know a lot of artists, and so this is a double exposure of my friend Mike Relm, who is a DJ and artist in Los Angeles. That is the double exposure is of Lava Lamps and his black suit. Also in that time period, 2003 to 2005, I just, again, took my camera everywhere. So this was a lucha libre, which is Mexican wrestling down in Los Angeles. And while the rest of the audience sat, and cheered, I couldn't help myself but get up and get right against the ropes. Feel free to, if you have any questions, please. Several years ago, I was at the San Luis Obispo Mission at Christmas time, and I walked in and I just happened to see this moment, and I took the photo right before they stopped kissing, thankfully. So I was able to capture the moment. But again, I love documentary photography. I think it's a real challenge. I think it's a real, I think it's just the pursuit of actual genuine art. This is my friend Brianna, who had 5 miscarriages before this, and it's the only daughter that she has ever had, at least to this date. And now this little girl is about 14 years old. Here's another Chumash. When you get paid to, just document newspaper things, you have to be able to produce quickly and capture moments that, that are genuine, but you have to do it day after day after day. So this is a pretty basic moment of little kids learning how to read and eating snacks at the Chumash Student Center. But I always kind of like this image. I'm going to be showing a wide variety of images tonight, so feel free to just be totally confused. This is a portrait of a friend of mine who was pregnant at 19, and she wanted something soft and modelly and glowy, and I think this classified as successful. I also really like humorous moments in life, like this female elf who was having a well-needed drink on Christmas Eve at the Ghana Inn. This is my nephew at a very young age. He is now 12. But again, just capturing random candid moments. When I was still in college, I met Native American artist James Luna, who passed away recently in 2018, but I was his traveling assistant part-time for 16 years. And so I took this portrait of him about 2015. And now, unfortunately, now that he's passed away, his work is now become in vogue and starting to be very popular in the New York art scene. He also has work in the Smithsonian and in the National Gallery. And some of that work has my name on it just because I was the photographer who was there and documented it. I also just, like I say, take my camera with me everywhere. This is at Ross Lake on the Canadian border, and these are my friends who I just set up one of my cheap Alien B strobes, and we took a bunch of photos of everybody there, and this is the one that I like the most. This was when they were still dating, and now they're parents of 3. Oh my. This is my friend Marlene when she was about 17. I have known her since she was 4. And now she's married with a child of her own, and I actually fixed her up with her husband. She always liked kind of vintage styling, and this was one of my first attempts at genuine lighting many years ago. Here's another attempt at lighting with my friend Nathan, who's also a very talented photographer that Tony, I believe, knows. Yeah. He looks very different than now than he did during this photo. This photo was taken about 12, 15 years ago. But I just love, because he's such a sweet, nice guy, but he always captures himself in camera very kind of dark and brooding. This is a barber. His name was Skittles. I never knew his real name. He was only known as Skittles. He drove a lot of bright colored cars around town, and he was very famous for being very flamboyant. I took this portrait of him a year before he had a heart attack and passed away. I believe that's how he died, tragically and young. But I always liked this portrait because he was always a genuine nice guy. This photo is quadruple exposure inspired by a Rolling Stones poster or album. Some of you may know better than I. And this is my stepson with his band, which are called Andromeda. And I
want to ask a question.
Yes.
So this is somebody's got their mic on. Somebody's got their mic on. That mute yourself. So it's a quadruple exposure.
Yes.
So did you zoom out and then zoom back in when you made those?
Yes, and but it is digital, so there is some digital retouching in this.
Okay.
But a lot of it isn't done in camera. I'm a big fan of using Photoshop, but making it so that you never can tell. But I try to get as much in camera as possible, 90-95%, especially with my double exposures, and I'll have more of those.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Thank you. So this is just an overview of my earlier work, and so my work quickly evolved because I get bored easily and I like challenging myself. So I started making staged work, and first it began with just portraits of people in random environments. Instead of doing it in the safety of my home, I started going out to places. This is the old Shaw's Steakhouse before it burned down recently. I don't know if you've been in there since, but the bar's changed quite a lot. But this is my friend Warren, maybe about 10, 12 years ago, sitting at the bar. Thankfully, I also know my family owned Tom's Takeout in Santa Maria for 40 years. So I pretty much know a lot of people in town and can get into any environment and set up lighting, and they let me do it, thankfully. This is, God, I don't even remember his name. This was taken many years ago, maybe 05, 06. He was just a local boxer, and since I didn't have a lot of guy friends at the time, and I wanted to do some male portraiture, he was down, and this was actually shot in the parking lot of the mall on the 2nd floor. This is also a kid named Griffin, who I'd known since he was a very young kid, and he was a golf star at St. Joseph High School. And even though he was a nerd, he dressed really preppy, like most golf people have to do. And so I just always liked his look. And this is a girl, I believe, named Maya, and this was taken somewhere, Cayucas, maybe? Again, the strobes are usually run off truck battery. So I either have an 18-foot long extension cord or something crazy like that. And umbrellas are breaking because the wind is blowing everything down, and it's all very done haphazardly. But as long as the result looks good. So with these posed portraits, I started getting commissioned by people, and this was one of my very first commissions. A couple had me take photos of their daughter, and they said that she always acted like a star. And so I got an amp and a microphone, and I set up this little stage in a parking lot, and with my lights. And I believe this girl's probably about 18 or 19 now. This is a portrait of a longtime family friend of ours, John Fumia, who some of you may know. He's him and his twin brother have been gardeners, were gardeners in this town for many, many, many years. His brother passed away several years ago, but John's still going strong and still ornery and pissed off at the world, but he's a great guy. So this was really the start of what my work became, which is this woman found me online and liked my portraiture and said, "Would you be interested in getting weird?" And I said, "Of course." And so she said, "I'm pregnant and I don't want the standard pregnancy photos. I want to make a scene." And so since I was raised Catholic and I have strong opinions about the Bible, and the understanding of the Bible and the written word, she said, I have, I asked her what her interests were, and she liked being a little bit rebellious. And I said, "Do you have a bathing suit of any kind?" And she had said, "Well, I just decorated this Halloween costume for Eve before I got pregnant." And so I said, "If you could bring that pregnant." And so, there's an old saying of, you don't sell the steak, you sell the sizzle. So you don't sell the sin of original sin, you sell the pregnancy. So you sell the apple. And so I made her basically a prostitute on the street corner selling the apple.
I've never seen a prostitute like that.
You can, I was going to say several things, but I won't.
Maybe I haven't looked hard enough.
Maybe. So that same day, this is when my nieces are now 14, or 15. So now they were 6 months old at the time. I wanted to just make some type of social commentary. And so thankfully my sister-in-law let me use my nieces in this picture. And we posed this thing. I bought a lot of these things at the dollar store. And I put the shoes, those are my shoes, to kind of give a hint of that there is a man in the picture, but he's not in the picture. Yeah, some people love this photo, some people hate it. This was taken in my side door off of Thornburg behind, I guess, where the Spearmint Rhino is now. So, yeah. So then I just started staging more and more elaborately silly things. You can obviously tell that I don't take life too seriously all the time. And so I just started thinking about like things that are odd or weird or just obscure. And so I started doing this whole series of people who are happily proud to be in fights and beat up. And I didn't know, I just bought the sash and made the thing, and I didn't think of putting on a title until the last minute. And I went to Michael's Art Supply and got these stickers, and Santa Maria wouldn't fit, so I put Miss Napomo as a last minute thing. Oh, and the bruises are all done in Photoshop.
Good.
So this photo became very popular online for a variety of reasons. And Snoop Dogg actually retweeted it several times and put it on his Instagram. But sadly, by that point, my logo and watermark had been taken off of it, so I got zero credit for it. Let's see, what's the story behind this other than my brother and I would sit around and just talk about like ways to be either controversial or obscure or funny in a dark way. And since he married a Black woman and is active in African American rights and things of that nature, I thought of the old Sesame Street thing. One of these things is not like the other. And so I convinced my friend Chris, who was developing my photos at Long's at the time, which is now CBS, if he would pose for this. And he was against the idea, as you can imagine. And eventually he went for it, and I went and at the Goodwill or thrift store, I got an old white robe that had been turned in from a St. Joseph graduation, and I went and got it embroidered with this KKK symbol in the mall when there was a store that did that in the mall. And I'd never been looked at with such a look of disdain by asking this woman to put this on this robe, because I don't know if she thought I was being serious about it or not. And so then I had to make the hood, and I was babysitting my friend's daughter, who was African American at the time, and she was only 3, and she thought I was making a Halloween costume, and she kept asking if she could put on the hood, and I kept telling her no, and she insisted, so she put it on, and I took one quick Polaroid of it, and I've never shown her parents that ever. So. But as a Boy Scout, I was surprised. I had never tied a noose before, so I had to do that to have that background image there. And this is a barn off of Bull Canyon Road. This is another commission that a couple hired me to do. They had just gotten engaged, and they wanted to do kind of a us against the world type of series. And I had no idea what to do. They gave me too much freedom, and so I thought of just stripping them naked, tying them up, and dropping them in a hole in my backyard. And I said that as a joke, and they said that sounds great. So that's what we did. I mean, they're not naked; they're whatever. It's fine. Here's another portrait that I took of. This is actually in that other man, John Fumia's house. His house hasn't been changed since he bought it in 1964. Just a nice, well-lit, gothy girl.
How did you get those cushions? How did you get those cushions to rise up?
It's just an old sofa from 1964, and so those those cushions are very stiff. So even though she's a light, thin, waifish thing, her sitting on it would bend them up. So one of those happy accidents, like they say.
Yeah.
Here's just another portrait of a family friend of mine. And this was, I had just bought a f 1.8 lens for the first time ever, a 50 millimeter. And so I used it at its maximum depth of field, and I really enjoyed it. And pretty much from that point on, I've been obsessed with creating as narrow a depth of field as possible. Here's another from the Beat Up Beauty series. This is actually the church out in Sisquoc, the old Catholic church. Is it San Ramon? And so yes, all those the Band-Aids are real, but all the injuries are photoshopped on. I'm particularly fond of the blister on her finger, if you can see that. Right there. All right, let's see what else. This is one of my favorite all-time photos, simply because it's my family. My sister-in-law said, well, you can take all these portraits of other people. Why don't you take portraits of your nieces and nephew? And so to this day, these are those girls' personality. Nadia is always in the driver's seat at 15 years old. She's always in charge. She's always the one taking care of everybody. And her sister Michelle is always just living her best life, finding the most comfortable chair and most flavorful meal she can, and enjoying it and trying to avoid everybody. And that's my nephew Marquez, who is just adorable. And above all else, I love how Nadia's hand is on Marquez's hand here, because she still takes care of him to this day, 11 years later. So in a while ago, I don't even remember how long, maybe 2012, I was offered a show at the, oh my gosh, what's the name of that gallery in San Luis Obispo that's no longer there? Anyone? By Frank's Hot Dogs? Do you know that place?
Steinberg?
Yes, Steinberg Gallery. And so I did a lot of Day of the Dead inspired images. This was on the main card. Let's see. This is a secondary image taken at a winery. I think it's Letitia Winery. This is a photo I really love. My friend Jenna, who had third stage neurological Lyme disease and was given only till the age of 25 to live. We did a whole series of images based on her illness, and she always liked the concept of Joan of Arc. And so we set up, I literally set up a pyre and we lit it on fire in front of, around her. This was not the straight out of camera image. Most of her, the tree line, and this wood is from one image. And then the fire is an amalgamation of probably 5 or 6 other photos all put together. This is another one of my more popular images. If it's going to open, will it open? Apparently not. There we go. So again, Mardi Gras. I had been to Mardi Gras the year before in New Orleans, and was really surprised at just how wild and debaucherous people could be. And so the next year, I since I was setting up all these elaborate things, I just thought it would be fun to set up that in my driveway. And so, can you see my cursor moving?
Not really.
Let's see. All right, so now you can see. So
Okay.
this right here, this is where that pregnant woman was standing with the children. This right here is the KKK guy. Let's see. A lot of these people factored into my photos. The black and white photo I showed you earlier, this is her future husband. My friend Warren, who was in Shaw's, is right here. So, you know, it's always a family affair when I do these elaborate setups. And this is highly composited together, much like a Norman Rockwell, where he would take numerous photos and make one painting. This is my great Aunt Mimi, who just recently passed away from Alzheimer's. Yeah, so this is probably about 10 or 12 images composited into one. And every year that photo gets stolen and used on posters all throughout New Orleans. And I never get any credit for it. So then I did a 7 Deadly Sins series that, this is sloth.
I don't remember you taking that picture of me.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, there's a lot of little details which I really enjoy. My favorite part here is the urine bottle, which is actually acrylic paint and a watercolor. Sadly, the rest of this stuff was just from my house. And I'm sure at some point in my life, I was sitting on that same sofa looking exactly like that. And this is one of my all-time favorite photos. Snow White and the 7 paternity tests. Unfortunately, 5 of the elves were women, and so that's why some of them are hiding their faces, or I had to kind of masculine them up in Photoshop. And then people always ask me, well, who would have been the father? And you know, it's got to be Dopey, I would guess. But this photo came about because my girlfriend at the time was this blonde woman who played the nurse, and this is her friend that she worked with at the time. And we were at a party, and I was apparently quite inebriated, and someone was talking about the work that I did, and they said, well, you already do pregnancy shoots, come up with one for Jen. And I took a big sip, and I put the drink down, and I said, I don't know, we'll get you to be a pregnant Snow White, and we'll have the 7 dwarves taking paternity tests. And I took another drink, and I walked away, and I didn't think about it for another 8 months until she called me back and said, are we still doing that? And I said, I have no idea what I said. And she said, we're going to do a Snow White pregnancy thing. And I said, oh, okay, give me a week. And within a week, I had borrowed a friend's veterinary clinic on a Sunday, and we went in. It turns out you can buy pickaxes and return them the same day. And yeah, so I did all that, and I made the costume out of some random things, and it all worked out. So that's the stage stuff. I'm going to kind of breeze through a lot of these here. So talking about my love of documentary photography, I've traveled all through Europe. I traveled through Eastern Europe, yeah, Costa Rica, most of Central America, Mexico, Canada. A lot of these photos are just me documenting my trips. This is my father in Texas. He hadn't been home to Raymondville, Texas, which is near the Mexico border, since he was about 8 years old. And so I took him and I documented his entire experience. And he was basically just trying to reconnect and find out who he was at that time period. This is in Mykonos in Greece. That's also in Greece. This is in Texas. That is in Italy. That is in Italy. This is over Iceland. This is in Switzerland. So I mainly am a people photographer. I love people, but I can't help myself, and I have to document pretty much everywhere I go. This photo got me thrown out of the Sistine Chapel. I don't know if any of you have been to the Sistine Chapel, but you're not allowed to take photos of it. Due mainly to, I would think, marketing and them making money from it, not because, you're not going to use a flash in there anyways, because it wouldn't help. But so if you walk into the Sistine Chapel, there are people lining all the edges of the room, but in the center of the room is a group of people, kind of like a swarm of fish, all trying to take photos and being in the group thinking they're going to be protected from the observers. There are many guards on hand who are just dying to throw you out. And so I quickly went into that school of fish, focused for infinity, shot multiple times, and then got out of the school of fish and went and sat down. And unfortunately, I looked down at my viewfinder to see if I got the shot. And when I looked back up, there was a guard standing right in front of me who grabbed me firmly by the arm, walked me out the door, and stood there and forced me to delete all the photos. And so me not being able to be dissuaded, I went back in line and walked the 2 hours all the way back through the gallery to make it back into the Sistine Chapel, where I quickly did the exact same thing, then took the memory card out, put a new memory card in, and got the hell out of there before they could catch me. And this,
Yeah, I've been there, and it was maybe that's me making it.
Yeah,
no, I've
it
been
is.
there, and it's a whole bunch of people.
but this was in focus enough for me to be able to pass it off. So this is in the gallery from Sistine Chapel to St. Peter's Square. This is lots of whiskey. This is graffiti in a chapel in Prague in 1799. From 1799, this is St. Peter's. This is St. Peter's. Wow, that's really small. Jeez. A second. This is the Colosseum. So just to show you, I just like nature. I like traveling. I like all this stuff. And so people think of me as a portrait and model photographer, but I really love capturing everything.
Is that the Trevi Fountain?
That is the Trevi Fountain. This is the column at the
Parthenon?
Parthenon. Lots of Rome. Let's see. I also love documenting food, except I am not that person on Instagram who posts food, because I never do. I just really like documenting my life. This was a cross-country trip in 2009. I would assume all of you know who Audie Murphy is. And so I was fascinated that no matter how much our culture changes, humans still feel the need to put a coin on a grave that they revere. So let's see here. This is overlooking in London. Gosh, why am I blanking on all these things?
The Tower of London.
Yes, thank you, Tony. You would know. That was waiting in line to get in. This is also inside the Tower of London. I love anything that goes into the distance. So anything that goes into perspective, I love that. This is a candid photo of my best friend, Michael Neff. The first time I met his girlfriend, now wife, and it kind of just sums up like a real loving relationship. I believe this was in Greece. More food, more cheese, always so much cheese. This is in Greece, in the island of Mykonos. Whenever I go anywhere, I feel the need to drive rather than take public transportation because I just want to experience it on my own. And the light was just so amazing there. The clouds just opened up and created this little pocket of light on this little residence. I really was fascinated by that. That is my now wife in Greece. Let's see. This is Ia, which is, people think that the city is Santorini, but it's the island of Santorini, which is on a volcano's caldera. And it really is as beautiful as all the photos show. As someone who is deathly afraid of heights, I did find it a bit of a challenge, but it was also really great. So I wouldn't let my fear stop me from getting images that I wanted. Let's see. I feel like some of this stuff is just kind of repetitive, so feel free to stop me. So even though I do like kind of very loud, storytelling images, I really also love images like this that are just kind of quiet and elegant and beautiful. And these are the kind of things I prefer hanging in my house. This is a 4-second or 10-second exposure. I pulled up a red picture on my phone and walked backwards away from the camera on the tripod. You guys were saying that you take photos of the Milky Way and things, so you know how this was taken. Yeah, I love little things like that. This was on a trip through Philadelphia. These kids were just playing basketball, and I asked them if they would pose for photos, and they said yes. This was 2009. And I love it that only later on when I got the images back that I noticed that you could actually see the raindrops frozen because it just started to rain. This was taken just off the freeway off of Santa Maria Way, where the agriculture fields are set up. There's Mykonos again. Watermelon, cheese, meat. When I go to tourist attractions, I don't take too many photos of the actual attraction. I prefer documenting people who are documenting themselves at the attraction. I don't know why that is. I'm just kind of odd. Let's see. People who've never been to Rome, I like showing these photos simply because people only see tourist pictures, but this is like people working and living and in an ancient city. And so the ancient walls of the Vatican and coming in to see St. Peter's and all that stuff, I prefer the reality of it, and it's really quite amazing. And Italy, Rome, they're my favorite places of anywhere in the world I've been to. More food. This is inside the Vatican. And what I find fascinating as someone who has a passion for history is all the marble that the floor is made out of in the Vatican is actually marble that was stripped off of other ancient places in Rome because the Pope was so cheap. He didn't want to have to buy new marble, so he just went and stripped it off of other buildings. Two of my favorite sculptures of all times. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen these before. This is the Acropolis at night. This is a long hallway leading up to the Sistine Chapel pathway. On that same trip in 2009, as a counterpoint to those Philadelphia kids, this is in Cocoa Beach in Florida. A bunch of happy Cuban kids who didn't mind posing for my camera either. Let's see. And this is the best meal I've ever eaten in my life. It doesn't look very appetizing, but when you've been driving for 12 hours and you land in Rome and you don't know where you're going, and then you have this meat that is covered in a garlic butter sauce, it was really the greatest thing ever. And my traveling assistant, Lauren, agreed with me. All right, so let's get to more interesting things, I guess. So on these trips, I work with models. And so I do a lot of glamour, I guess, for the lack of a better word, glamour or art photography. This is an in-camera double exposure with a Vancouver model who is an archaeology student in Rome. And so I just always love that image. This was taken at the Airbnb that I was staying in. This is a model who her job is protecting ancient documents and preserving them. And it was fascinating to talk to her about it. But this was in an Airbnb in Florence. This is in Regency Park, Tony?
Regency Park.
Yeah, in London. I love this portrait. The model was very open-minded and had found me online when I had said I was coming internationally. And so she was one of the first models that reached out to me, and we took this great portrait. This is in Manhattan. This woman was an actress. She's a friend of a friend. And she's literally standing on the ledge of a 25-story building. There's Regency Park again. This was, oh gosh, I do not remember. But I always like that picture. Oh, this was in Versailles, which I was very disappointed with. Apparently I went on the off season when there are no colors in the garden whatsoever. And so the entire garden was just green or dirt. And it was very disappointing. This was a Parisian model and actress who was very trusting of me, and she did not understand why I would just want to take photos in a place like Versailles without, you know, a makeup artist and a hairstylist and, you know, an agent, a producer, and a production assistant and all this stuff. And the photos we got out of it were pretty good for just kind of walking in and buying tickets and just avoiding guards. That's also in Versailles. This is the first time I ever set foot in the Mediterranean Ocean. This is in Salerno, Italy, on the Napoli coast, or the Amalfi coast. Yeah, it was just a crazy, beautiful place. And I have a lot of friends there now, and I try to go and visit at least every few years.
Is that Salerno or Sorrento?
Salerno.
Okay.
Yeah, not Sorrento. I believe this is like Ojai. This model wanted to do a shoot in the rain, and so I drove down there, and then the rain stopped. So I ended up getting a water bottle and just flicking it onto my passenger window, and we took these photos. All right. But I also have to pay the bills as a photographer, so I shoot a lot of weddings. This is a wedding I shot during quarantine up near Sacramento at some winery. All of these photos I had 10 minutes to take all of them. And so I was literally running from location to location saying, just skip over the thing or crawl under there. And it was quite a lot of work, but it was a tight 10 minutes, but we came away with several solid images, and I'm very proud of it. And this girl actually had a heart transplant when she was 8 years old, and you can see really lightly there the scar on her chest. This is my friend Mackenzie, who wanted a bunch of photos of her. She had been a model for years, and so she didn't watch the standard bride photos. So we took a series of these. She is standing on a bench. Let's see if that'll open. Nope. She's standing on a bench, and I'm beneath her, which is why I'm able to get all sky. And I have a deserted road out in Sisquoc that I love shooting at. And this is that depth of field that I was talking about earlier. There's that same wedding. And as I mentioned before, I do love behind the scenes more than the pose stuff. This is a little girl and her uncle. This little girl had all the personality in the world. She was pissed off the entire day of the wedding, and I just could not stop taking her picture because she just kept emoting so much. And if any of you go to Aero Camera in Santa Maria, that's Margaret who owns Aero Camera. And this was her son's wedding. And so I felt very honored, since she knows a lot of photographers, that her son would ask me to be the photographer. That's their son. There's the bride. Let's see. Again, her attitude just kind of filled the day. And I mean, since I wasn't her parent, it didn't bother me, but her family was kind of annoyed at her energy. But then you have to get, the nice, pretty shot. And even though I don't like staging things for weddings, they had a bunch of petals and we're going to throw them. So I said, okay, go for it. So we got some of those. This was a candid shot, but it looks like a pose shot because she was just walking down the aisle or walking down the stairs to the reception. And I forgot to take my sun flare filter off of the lens, and it really came in handy. And then here's the opposite of that. So you don't, when you shoot a wedding, you can't shoot what you want. You shoot what they will want. And they wanted to climb up on huge bales of hay, which wouldn't have been my first choice or my aesthetic, but they were very happy with the results. So that couple I think I showed you at Ross Lake, this was when they got married and they asked me to be their photographer. Because they liked my documentary style. This is kind of a low-res file, but they let me be the only person in the cab with them driving over. The wedding was in Seattle. And there's my friend Mike Neff again with his now wife also, and his mother-in-law, and the bar for some reason wasn't serving drinks, so they were all sneaking alcohol. But also when you shoot weddings, you kind of have to just kind of get coverage. So I have a lot of these kind of photos in my archives, just pretty centerpieces, things of that nature. But these are the wedding photos I prefer taking. All right, let's see here. So I'm just going to breeze through these really quickly. So I shoot a lot of models, like I said, and so I try not to make them just the same boring, you know, glamour shots. And so, you know, I'm doing long-term exposures with studio lighting, lots of movement, but also freezing the moment. This is, that's actually a black garbage bag strung up tightly behind her with a red light on it. You can see it better there. I make a lot of torches. I play with fire a lot. This is a, this is a double exposure in camera. This is one of my favorite double exposures in camera. Zero Photoshop. She was just in her driveway, or back driveway, and the sun was hitting just right. She's on a piece of fur. You can see the fur there. And but the backdrop was just black shadow. And then I turned and took a photo of the clouds of the sky, and that was it.
She dresses like that in her back driveway all the time?
Well, it was behind the house, so it was fine. This is not a double exposure, but a single exposure zooming. I believe it was about a 2-second exposure, and then I zoomed out with a 70 to 200 from across the room with studio lighting. And the horns were just some foam horns I'd ordered on Amazon. This is my friend Jenna when she was, I think, 18. When she was 16 years old, I saw her at the thrift store on Main Street, and she just is just a stunningly beautiful woman. And I walked over to her and I said, "Have you ever thought of modeling?" And she said, "Yes, I have." And I asked her her age, and she said 16. And so I handed her my card, said, "You cannot talk to me. Have your mother call me, but please do." And about a week later, I got a call from her mother who said, "Who are you?" And I explained to her that I wasn't some creepy weirdo. And she came over with Jenna, and we talked for about an hour. And so over the next several years, I made sure that her mother was standing next to me every time I took a photo of her. And she looks topless here, but she's not, I promise you. Yeah, this is all in camera. This is very little Photoshop other than probably a couple pimples I took out. Yeah, she made it very easy. Actually, she's the one that was later the pregnancy photo I showed you earlier. And her mother unfortunately passed away in quarantine. Here's another photo from that same series. This is light coming through my sliding glass door from my backyard. And I just put a piece of red cellophane across the glass and took the photo. Here's Jenna again with some cheap lights right in front of the lens, and then several colored lights on her. This is in my living room with a bare white wall, but just lots of different colored lights angled appropriately. This is a red road flare at sunset at Shell Beach. I think I might have more of those. Yeah, this is my other favorite one. This was also taken in my backyard, really basic lighting. I hot glued that flower crown about 10 minutes before she got there. And that's wax and things on her. She is very artsy. I made these spikes years ago and never knew what to do with them. And then one day this model saw them in my garage and asked if she could wear them. And so we took this photo in my bedroom probably about 10 years ago. So this is an Italian model that I worked with in Venice, Italy, who came to America for the first time 3 years ago. And this is holding a mirror perpendicular to the lens. So this is no Photoshop. This is an in-camera, double exposure, no Photoshop. Yeah, I always like that one. Here's the red cellophane again, except I put the two pieces of cellophane about 2 inches apart. So when my friend Erica leaned up against the glass, there was white light coming in between the crack. Here again is more movement with lighting. This photo, my wife loves so much, it's hanging in our bedroom, even though I don't like hanging my work. It's another double exposure. It was a great series. She was a great model. This model is from Australia and had a very saucy personality. Here's the same day with the, so there's two rectangles of the red cellophane, and then I made this jewelry. I just bought a cheap chain from Michael's Art Supply and froze it in a block of ice and then melted the ice into a shape and made ice jewelry. I've done that several times, but this is the most productive photo that came from it. How are we doing on time? Can I still go?
Yeah, I think we're gonna have show and tell at some point at 8:30.
Okay. So just really quickly, this is just last few portraits of my friend nursing on medium format film, black and white portraits. And yeah, so I do a little bit of that. I make books, and I, yeah, you can tell I kind of am all over the place with my style and technique.
Hey, Mark,
Yes.
got any of your underwater shots?
Let's go to sound here.
He asked to see some underwater photos. Let's see. Let me see. So I've done a lot of underwater photography. This is all in camera, no Photoshop. These are all very biblical to me for some reason. This felt like just these very angelic floating creatures. So there you go, Tony.
Thank you.
All right. So there you go. Hope that wasn't too boring for you.
Great.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you.
I like your pregnant photos because I've always said I'm tired of looking at pregnant bellies, but the way you did them was very creative. I really appreciated it.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the humor in a lot of your images, and I like the other ones as well. Nice.
Thanks, Mark.
I enjoyed staged photography.
Yeah.
Very creative and inventive.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes, indeed. He's always been very creative.
Yeah.
Well, I too get bored easily with most portraiture and you know, wedding and pregnancy photos. So that's why I just have to make it different for me. And thankfully a few people like it. So
Can you give some suggestion about the double exposure? Because I see in particular at the end you have many portraits double exposure in camera.
for double exposure, you have to underexpose each shot.
Okay.
And for what I like to do is I try to literally put my finger in front of the lens for a certain part of it. Like say the shot of the woman with her whole body, but her face was the double exposure.
Yeah.
my fingers were over her face, or over the lens, kind of making it dark. So the next thing I shot, I would put this part over the lens,
Okay.
and so I would kind of aim it and steer the light where I wanted it, pretty much. Or knowing that, like, if I shoot a really dark silhouette that against a white background, then that white background will cut out whatever is there, and thus make the image pop out more.
Thank you.
Do you adjust the exposure with each frame or each click?
Yes, I'd say 2/3 of those double exposures are digital, and so that helps a lot because digital is very forgiving when you shoot raw. But yes, you basically, that's why I try to do it in the same moment, because if you do it later on, you can do it, but you're thankfully you can shoot over the same image, but I believe you have to keep the same ISO, and so you have to work within those parameters. And so you like you would anyways with any other photography, you meter for the shadows or you meter for the highlights, depending on what you want. And you know, sometimes I have something very specific in mind, and sometimes I'm just shooting the hell out of it, and hopefully one of them will look good. Any other questions?
Not all cameras will allow double exposure though, will they?
No, ours cameras, Sony cameras do not allow it.
Nikons do.
Yeah, I used to shoot double exposures with slide film all the time, and I really enjoyed doing that. And so I miss that, being able to do that with digital. But
Yeah, the two things I miss most with things that have gone out of vogue are Polaroid transfers, shooting cross-processed and ruining someone's chemicals by processing slide film, and shooting double exposures with film, which I just don't anymore, simply because I have a Canon camera that does it a lot faster and cheaper. So
Right.
yeah, I had a lot of images to throw away when I was doing that.
You can emulate double exposure. I mean, cross process in Photoshop.
yeah, I just finished. I make a lot of books and magazines and self-publish, and I just did one that made it very to the people that I was shooting and showing the final result to. You know, they're all in their 20s, so they don't know what cross-processed is, but they know the look, and so I know the look, and I know when cross-processed goes bad because the chemicals are too old or too fresh or too whatever. And so I did a lot of playing around with it, and it was a lot of fun to do it digitally, but it always feels like cheating when I do it digitally. So yeah.
Having worked in the photo lab years, the process always kind of grated on my nerves because it's just like, oh my God, this is horrible. I got to color correct it.
Yeah, I know. Thankfully, the people who used to work at Long's would do it for me because I would only bring maybe one roll at a time, you know, per batch of chemicals, because, you know, it'll ruin it. And yeah, I know some people really hate the high contrast, you know, look, but you know, when I was experimenting and I was bored with film, it was fun. So
yeah.
Yeah, fabulous, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah, really good.
Thank you so much.
And I was going to comment. I really like that ice necklace that you made. That was a really, I mean, just creative, and it's by itself. So
Yes, cool.
Yeah.
Literally.
so I'm stealing that idea.
that model is very sensitive to cold, so we could only shoot that for seconds at a time. She had to keep lifting it off, and yeah, she's a sport.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any other questions for me? All right.
Thank you, and we should move on to our show and tell.
Great. My wife has been texting me, so I think I'll let you guys go. But if you have any questions, please, you can get my email off my website, markvelasquez.com or whatever. Please feel free to send me messages, and I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Good night.
It was great. Bye for now.
Okay, so do we have show and tell images?
We do.
Do we? Let's see. I forgot.
Oh, the host that gives you the most.
Yeah, I think the feedback we were getting was from Mark. Notice it's gone now.
You know, I think happens if the monitor speakers feed back into the microphone.
Yeah.
You get those.
Yeah.
So wearing a headphones is one way to do it.
Yeah.
To avoid it. So.
Okay, let's see. Show and tell. Let's see what we got here. I think we've got some show and tell. This, I'll share it. Okay, hang on here a second. Let me move this out of the way. And let me move this out of the way. So we're going to, I'm just going to show these in alphabetic order. So these are Cheryl's. So I'll let Cheryl, if you want to talk about them or.
Sure. So these are images from the field trip to Piedras Blancas, and we did a number of different things that day. One of the things was to go to the seal beach and took lots, like 1 million seal photos. So I entitled this one "O Solo Mio." I thought they just looked like they were singing together.
All right. Hang on a second here. Let me get.
It was a fun day. I really appreciated that opportunity to be with all of you that went.
Why did they call it Seal Beach?
Yeah, I don't know. For 9 million seals.
All right.
That one's a nice one, Cheryl. I like that.
Yeah.
I caught Jeannie, who I guess she's not on tonight, but I loved her red hat. And she's just walking along the shore there at Piedras Blancas with her dogs. And so nothing terribly exciting, except I love the hat.
Well, that's a nice photo.
Documentary.
Yeah, it's really cool. I like the way the ocean fades out there, really soft in the background.
That was one of the nice things about that day. It was the light was kind of, people would say horrible because there were no shadows. It was sort of a flat light, but very interesting. Some of my other photos might show that the sea and the sky were almost like identical colors. So it was I thought it was kind of interesting that it was like that. So.
All right.
Oh.
Yes, that was the shipwreck that's up on the coast there. That there's a number on I can't read it, but on the boat, and that's what I called this one. But interesting to go down there and photograph that. And again, seeing the sea and the sky the same color with almost the horizon not visible.
Yeah, that tide has come in on that one pretty much.
Yeah, I like the water being over the boat. Did you climb down, or is that from?
Yes. I think I was the only one that went down onto the beach. I was heard some mountain climbing effort, and I did it.
All right.
Was that after the on the way home, or?
No, that was on the way there.
Oh, that was okay.
Yeah.
That's why we missed that. We were
It was
behind everybody.
on the way up. Yes.
Yeah.
Red, white, and blue. A fun shot that was there at Piedras Blancas. It was sort of a staged sort of thing.
Okay.
The lighthouse there at Piedras Blancas.
Okay.
There's the Piedras.
Yes, and another, that's the White Rock for which it's named. And the interesting sky again against the same colored horizon is just, I thought that was really nice. I liked it.
Yeah, that works very effective, I think. If you had clouds or something in the sky, I think that would be distracting.
Yeah.
It's nice to have that foreground too,
Yeah.
which really, brings the color into the scene.
It was beautiful up there that day. All of those plants they said had been, were the natives that they had planted in that area to rehabilitate. And it was stunning to see the colors of what was the natural habitat.
Very good.
That's Rosie taking a picture of the lighthouse, and I was actually standing on the steps of the lighthouse, so taking a picture of her taking a pictures.
Are those, what are the cabins? Are they part of the cruise quarters?
I'm not sure. The one directly behind her where a guy is going in there, I think it was some sort of a museum, or there was something, a store. Larry says a store. They were just sort of outbuildings for whatever reasons.
Probably support for the lighthouse keeper.
Well, they have, I asked about the motel. There's a few rooms where people can spend the night there, and I asked about those. And I guess they do a lot of research for counting the whales there.
Oh, they do, yes.
The researchers stay in those rooms when they're there studying the whales.
Very good.
By
Okay.
the way, they had counted like 865 or something whales that year that they had seen off the coast. So
Very good.
it was a fun day. I really enjoyed that.
All right. Let's try Ed if he's still awake. Ed?
Ooh, that's cool.
Okay. So we'll
Yes,
just
Ed.
go.
This now, you should be able to hear me.
Okay, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
This was photographed south of the lighthouse, and it looks like that.
Well,
Not the
that's a
same
good
view.
shot, Ed.
It's a good
Thank you.
vantage point, yeah. That's
Or
really nice.
Well, I like this because a lot of times these lighthouses, you see people just like, just see the lighthouse, close up basically. And this is a distant view and you can see the environment around it, which is really cool.
Yeah, you can kind of get an idea why there's a lighthouse there.
Yeah. All right.
I did not climb down. I started to climb down, but my balance is so crappy and my knees so messed up that I decided I'd be better off to stay up above and not go down there. But I wanted to go down. I think Cheryl's shot is is nice from down there.
Yours
But this is
nice.
up above on the bluff, and it looks a lot like this.
Yeah, yours is
In
nice
this
too.
case, it looks exactly like this.
But I like the way you use the plants there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to
really
get
effective.
the depth of field so I could get the plants in focus as well as the shipwreck and
Yeah.
get some balance there between them. I kind of had a thing for balance that day, I guess.
Yeah.
All right.
I really like the light for the I think the overcast lighting really helped the mood of that.
Yeah, some of the stuff that, lighting, I generally, a lot of times anyway, I prefer a higher contrast, but sometimes, the subdued light is really better. When I photograph at the Renaissance fairs, the one in the San Luis Fair, frequently the first hour or two in the morning has got overcast or even some fog, and it works real nice for the ladies. It's not too good for the knights in shining armor, but for the ladies it looks good. And so, it just depends on the subject and the mood you want. It definitely changes the mood.
Does.
Okay.
This guy was where the seals were, and he was just hanging out in the parking lot, and he thought I had some Fritos or something for him, and he was wrong.
Is that a Chihuahua?
No.
It's a ground squirrel.
Oh,
His name is Leonard.
Leonard. All right.
Yeah. Again, the flowers, as Cheryl got, they were in bloom and they were looking quite nice. I liked the contrast of the brilliant yellow flowers contrasted with the subdued blue. And then the little shack there for the, I guess not really a shack, stone building for the foghorn, I think is what was originally in there, something to do with that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just liked it. I liked the texture on the building, kind of going with the flowers, and I also like the texture on the building, which you'll see again later. I found another opportunity with that also.
Yeah, I like the yellow carpet leading up to it.
Yeah, yeah.
I enjoyed that building also, Ed. That was a cool building.
Yeah, it was a cool building.
Brick is cool.
And then you got those 3 windows facing. You got to have sets in 3, otherwise you lose 6 points in your judging.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So I
Another-
got laundry day also. A little bit wider view than Cheryl's, but and it was like Cheryl said, it was kind of a setup thing there, but it was fun. And I think probably the subdued light, this works better than it would have with high contrast. I think this is the right light for that.
That's pretty cool.
This is the other texture, and like I was talking about when I mentioned those flowers, I like them together. The stone work had kind of the same colors as this gal's dress, and the mottled appearance as the gal's dress, and she was just ready to leave. In fact, I think she was actually getting into her car, and I said, "Would you mind? I'd like to make a photograph of you over here." And I showed her what I had in mind, and I had already checked it out. I knew what exposure I would need to get the window where I wanted it enough light, and I like the window up there. It does serve as a distraction, but at the same time, it's a counterbalance. You've got your primary subject, and you go to the window, and then you come back to the woman. For me, it works. It probably doesn't work for everybody, but I showed it to her and sent it to her, and she was delighted with it. She thought it was
I like it a lot.
yeah, a very interesting. It turns out she's a writer and published. I haven't read any of her stuff, but when I got an email from her, I thought, wow, this gal can write. That was before I knew that she was in fact published, but it showed up right away in her email that she knew what she was doing. But anyway, yeah, it came out. It was pretty much what I wanted, so I'm pleased with that one.
Very good.
I think that's it. Oh, one more. That's obviously the stairs in the lighthouse, and they look like that.
You could not go up in those, is that correct?
No, they were closed off, and I'm not sure why, but probably because some assholes are going to decide to write graffiti on the walls next to them or jump down just to see how fun it can be.
Yeah.
And they didn't want the liability to that either, so they closed them off.
Okay.
We can't have nice things in this country because there's always assholes scrawling their names and their love notes on everything.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but I don't know what the deal is with that. But anyway, it's a nice shot. It was obviously from down below and shooting up, and I just like the curves. The contrasting, the one curving one way and the other to the other, and then the solid vertical line on the left.
Yeah, very cool.
You really had an eye to pick that out, Ed. I tried that same scene from a couple different angles. I never quite got it as nice as yours. So
well, I don't always hit the mark with stuff like this either, but I do like images with, as I think most people are aware of by now, I do like images that have a strong graphic component. I don't always get what I'm after, but when I get it, I like that stuff. I'm not so much into pretty pictures, just quote unquote pretty pictures. I make them and I like some of them, but I like photographs that have some graphic interest, graphic intrigue, and got some balls to them. And this, I was pleased how this came out. I've got actually, it was a little easier for me to do this one because I've gotten some fairly similar photographs at one or two other lighthouses also.
Very good.
Very nice.
Okay, next one up is Elaine.
Us off, Penny.
Okay, we were a little bit behind everybody else, and we met them where the seals were. But before we got there, Ron had to stop and go to the restroom. And when he was in the restroom, I saw this cobweb and had to get out and take a picture of that with all the dew from the fog.
Yeah, that dew is really cool.
Yeah,
It almost looks like a city planning, city street planning.
Yeah, it definitely added. And then the zebras were out and they were close to the road. So we hurried up and pulled over and they all went away. They went further out. And so we went back to the car. And as we went back to the car, they moved back closer again. So we ran out there again. And that one is cropped to bring them in. They weren't quite that close, but they were pretty close. And they were very curious.
You should tell people this is from your safari.
Yeah, when I went to Africa.
Those are great. Such
Is it-
graphic.
And there was a lot of them there. And I didn't get a picture of how many there were, but they were interacting with each other. So I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
If like horses, how to catch a horse is to, the minute they start to go away from you, you turn your back on them. And they're
Yes.
curious. So they'll come up closer and you keep doing that over and over again.
Or sit down.
Well,
Yeah.
when we got out of the car the first time, a really noisy vehicle went by, and I think that's what drew them away
Mm.
more than our presence, because there was already people there, and they didn't seem bothered by the
Oh,
people.
okay.
But
Well,
anyway,
I think this is a really, really great photo of the.
Love this photo.
oh, thank
Very
you.
cute.
I just wanted to show, I mean, they were packed. I mean, they had the whole beach, but it seemed like all the seals were fighting over the same spots, and these were getting along pretty well. And I just really liked how it showed how, they snuggle up with each other.
It's just so expressive. So, just love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks like my fat ants on the beach.
Well, these were the better looking seals also because they were in the process of molting. And some of them you'll see from the next photo, I think. They were pretty gross.
Like that?
Yeah, they were shedding and losing their pelt. And but I liked this one because there was so many different colors. And again, it showed how they were just all crammed in there.
So you were using a long lens for this?
My 70 to 400.
So this is at 400?
Probably close to it, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean these are really intimate photographs.
Yeah.
Really
Wow.
nice. This one's great too. I love it.
Oh, thank you.
Mm.
And then we had to meet at the motel before we went out to the lighthouse. And, I'm just always attracted to peeling paint and decay. I was going to take a wider angle, but there were people there, so I had to zoom in tight. And I thought I was going to go back, but we never did go back. So this is what I got.
Yeah, nice graphics.
And my view of the lighthouse with I think they called the fog, not foghorn, but fog signal house, the fog signal house or something like that.
I thought it was a fog station.
They had foghorns, and at one time they had fog whistles. So it could have been a fog station, but I think they referred to it as a fog signal house, but same thing.
What time of day was this?
This is we got there about 9 o'clock or
Okay.
9:30, something like that.
something like that. But you can see in the hills behind how foggy it still was.
Yeah.
And just a little detail from close up.
Okay.
And I went inside and tried to work with those stairs too, wanting to go up, but we couldn't. But what attracted me to this angle was the shadows that it cast. And
I like that you got that window in there. That's
yeah, I like the warm glow that it showed the source of the light.
It makes a nice, I don't know what you want to say, but it counters that all this, you know, the stairway itself. It just adds a little bit more interest.
Thank you. And another angle. Again, I liked the shadows.
Yeah, nice shadows. Those work well. All right.
That's it.
Oh, let's see here. This is up at Moonstone. I went out
Oh,
with,
yeah.
I went out with Ron and Elaine. What, last Thursday? Was it
Thursday.
last
About
Wednesday?
a week ago, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Mine doesn't look like that. That's cool.
It's beautiful.
well, it's all done in camera.
Yeah, right.
But no, you got those birds.
Yeah, those. Yeah,
Mhm.
just another bunch of birds going by.
Mhm.
This is up at Morro Bay. I made this with a point and shoot.
Mm.
Another in camera photo.
Yeah.
Yeah, 20 smears.
Yeah.
This is a composite up at the golf course. I think all of these were made with the I think all of these were made with a G10.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
hmm.
This is a triple exposure, and that's triple exposure in camera.
Hmm.
I thought it was a pretty interesting rock.
It is
Yeah.
really interesting shape.
We had heavy fog up there, so that's what I just made this in the fog. And I went through some old photos. This is my first wife, Janice.
Oh, it's nice to see her.
Yeah. And that's my second wife.
Nice. Beautiful woman.
Yeah, they're not bad. So anyway, that's it for me.
This is mine, Ron's, and they're zebras.
Really?
Serengeti.
We have it all here on the Central Coast. Even zebras.
I call this there's one in every crowd because there's one facing the opposite direction.
Yeah.
This one I was thinking of the song Aqualung by Jethro Tull,
Yeah.
with his snot running down his nose.
This is cool.
And this reminded me when we used to go on field trips, and Patty Lene and Mary Goodspeed used to ride with us, and it'd be in the back seat, and it sounded like little kids. She's touching me.
Yeah. Make her stop. And
That's self-explanatory.
We all know who that is.
Nice hat.
I love this one.
And
yeah,
I was
I
sitting
like
there
this.
talking to Alan at this intersection, and I'm looking down at that sign, and I'm going like, I got to get out of my hands and knees and do this sign pointing at the lighthouse.
That's really cool.
And in the lighthouse, I like the shadows on the wall. And this was just outside looking straight up.
Were you using a standard focal length, 50 millimeter, or were you using?
This is the point and shoot infrared image, or
Okay.
that could have been anywhere from 24 to 200.
Yeah, it's a great perspective. Okay, more of the zebras. And then we have Tony.
Well, I was there in 2014, and they still had the same long johns. But there was no red, white, and blue there then.
Well, you do have red, white, and blue. It's red long johns, white buttons, and blue sky.
That's true, yeah. There's the staircase.
There it is.
Cool. In black and white. Even in 2014, you couldn't go up the stairs.
I like that you got up at the top here. You got the underneath of the stairs. It's really interesting with the light and the, you know, the textures and stuff. Really cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I like the patterning. Well, you can see the brickwork in the wall.
Yeah, and you can see the shadows too, you know, and that makes a double effect, you know.
Yes, yes.
I bet that's infrared.
Infrared, but I reverse the channels, and then you can make the sky blue, and the rest comes out kind of pinkish. But I desaturate the pink, you know. But I'm interested in what it's done to the flag.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this was just something I messed around with in Photoshop. Made this fisheye of the flower.
So that's a Photoshop filter basically that you did?
Well, it's something to do with yeah, it's one of the filters, but if you apply it 3 or 4 times, you end up with that kind of effect.
Yeah, yeah.
But I used to do it quite a lot, and I've forgotten how I did it now.
Yeah, you can do the same with the polar coordinates. If you apply it and then apply it and apply it, you get some really interesting effects on it.
Yes, but they were wildflowers in the place when we were there.
Very good.
The whale watching you were talking about was going on when I was there. Got a very small pair of binoculars.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's it.
Very good.
See if I can stop sharing now. There we are. We're all back. What happened? Has Greg left?
I'm gonna pack up things here. We're at Grant Village, whatever it is, and if we get cracking, we can get back and set up into our campsite before it gets totally dark. So enjoyed all the photographs. Enjoyed seeing you cats in person in 3D at the lighthouse, and look forward to more of the same, more pictures and more face-to-face stuff. Be well, etc., etc.
Okay.
All right.
Safe
Good
trip.
night.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.
Good field trip. Bye-bye.
Oh, was Nyla on here all the time?
She's been there for quite a while.
Yeah, quite a while.
Hadn't even noticed.
Hi, Nyla.
Greg left some time ago.
Yeah, I didn't notice that.
Have we seen all the pictures?
Yep.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay. Well, thanks, you guys.
Oh, let me turn off recording here. Well, go ahead and speak.
It's okay. I loved seeing all the pictures from that field trip. It was a really wonderful day, and hoping we're going to have some more fun outings like that. So we're gonna take off also because we're about 45 minutes from home and we need to scoot out. So good seeing all of you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for competition.
Right.
All right.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.